What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Michael Keaton film, American Assassin. American Assassin is directed by Michael Siesta, stars Dylan O'Brien, Michael Keaton, Taylor Kitsch, and Sana Lathan. It tells the story of a man who, after his fiancée is killed in a terrorist attack and he is severely injured, decides to hunt down the terrorist group that perpetrated that attack. Now, as he is doing this, he is being followed by the CIA, who eventually recruit him to use him as an American assassin to hunt down bad people that are trying to do things, and in particular, a certain amount of a nuclear material that is trying to be used to create a nuclear bomb has been obtained by terrorists, and it is his job, with Michael Keaton, who has trained him to stop them. Now, when it comes to an action movie in modern day, the most important thing, arguably, besides the story and the acting, which are always going to be number 1 and 2, is the direction. Because if you film an action movie poorly, it can ruin a lot of the suspense and the action that is supposed to be the main thing in the film. And this movie got the shootout scenes perfect. All of the shootouts in the film feel extremely fluid, they all feel fleshed out, they have great effects. There's not a lot of CGI blood, most of it is practical blood squibs, which was great because that really helps build the intensity in those sequences even more. And then the fact that all of them were not done in like extremely fast takes, they actually took the time to choreograph these sequences, was really great to watch. Now, Dylan O'Brien is someone who I haven't really seen in much. I don't think he's been in many things, but a lot of people know who he is because he's a really talented young actor and he's a good-looking dude. So this was sort of his first role in a dramatic, serious film, in my opinion, and I actually thought he did a surprisingly good job. He wasn't amazing, but for the most part, he was actually pretty good. I think his performance actually had a decent amount of nuance to it in him being this man who's just hell-bent on getting revenge for what happened to him, and that makes him a hero that is easy for the audience to root for, which is always helpful. But along with that, he had a lot of small quirks to his character. Like whenever someone would bring up what happened to his fiancée, or whenever anyone would bring up certain terrorist organizations or things like that, like it was just the little things you could notice, like sort of like him like flexing his like muscles, and you could see like his neck, like the veins in it, or you would see his eyes start twitching and things like that. Those small nuances build a lot to a character to sort of showcase the mental state that that character is actually in, and I have to give props to O'Brien for that. As always, Michael Keaton was great in this role as sort of like the old school mentor to these young people that are being trained to kill. He's an old retired Navy SEAL who it's his only job to train these people to this extremely high level, and I thought that he did a great job at that, of sort of appealing to the crowd and being sort of like a dick, but also like a caring guy who wants to train these people. He doesn't want to see them die, but he also understands that that's part of this job. And then the fact that in the story of this film there was like a nuke in play and there were these really big governments involved actually made the story feel like it had pretty high stakes, to where you were somewhat invested in what happened, because near the end of it, it was pretty up in the air as to how it could all go down. Granted, you sort of have an idea, but it actually did a decent job of building the suspense enough that you were like, maybe something crazy could happen. The film had a good pace, the action was solid for the most part for the shootouts, and then really the only other thing is the physicality of these roles. I actually thought everyone did a great job. Taylor Kitsch plays the villain in the film, and I actually thought he also did a pretty good job with the physicality aspect of it, and O'Brien did too. But the other thing is that I think one of the main aspects of this film, and I mentioned it earlier briefly, is that the hero of this film that Dylan O'Brien is playing is so easy to root for because he has that revenge aspect, which is really easy for someone to relate to. But along with that, his character always tries to do the right thing in every situation, even when he's ordered not to, which is an extremely endearing quality in an action hero who he is so selfless, or he's so arrogant, but you have to make that decision as the audience which one it is as to why he's going and doing these things. Now, in terms of what is wrong with this film, it's far from perfect. The villain that Taylor Kitsch plays is extremely generic. Basically, the whole student turns on teacher thing is the role in this film. It's pretty obvious from the trailers or anything if you've seen anything about it. And I just felt like it was so overdone and so bland that I just didn't really care about him as a villain whatsoever. He wasn't interesting to me. He was just kind of the guy that who turned evil, just like so many other films. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. And then the other one is the CGI in this film is real terrible. It's really bad. Like all of the sequences that involve CGI look super terrible, like really pixelated, really obvious stuff. Sana Lathan also plays like the head of the CIA who sort of controls this organization, and her performance is so wooden and so bland to me that it just took the whole film down another level, because her character is basically just exposition. She tells you about what's going on, and she tries to be this like cool boss who's like, oh yeah, I'm involved in all this hardcore stuff, but everything about her performance is just so boring and bland and just so much exposition that I thought her character in every scene she was in just brought the movie down. The two biggest issues that I had with this film though were the direction and the hand-to-hand combat sequences, which actually go together. So the direction of this movie is extremely plain. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes plain direction means that you get long takes, you get wide shots, and those aren't bad. However, some of the sequences in this film are so plain, like literally reverse shot conversations where it's like, oh, Dylan O'Brien's talking, now this character's talking, now Dylan O'Brien's talking, now this character's talking, now Dylan O'Brien's talking, and it just would go back and forth through their conversation with never cutting to a wide, never cutting to a new angle, never cutting to an over the shoulder, nothing, just straight on their faces back and forth, and it was really bland. And then to go with that, the hand-to-hand combat, which actually plays a pretty big role in this film in terms of the importance with these characters, is filmed so poorly. It's all extremely shaky. Some of the shots are so clearly the stunt doubles for these actors, and the climactic sequence in this film is a hand-to-hand combat scene, and it really made the end of the film a lot less interesting because of that, because when you're watching it, you kind of can't feel attached to the fight since it's so hard to even tell what's going on. I'm gonna give American Assassin a C. This movie was alright. It's not anything to write home about. It's not a very special action movie. I thought Dylan O'Brien did a good job and I enjoyed his character. I liked Michael Keaton, and I thought the plot as a whole was decent. But I think it just sort of fell into a lot of action movie tropes with some poor direction and some really important sequences, and that just sort of brought it down. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of American Assassin, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.